Well, good morning all, and it is a pleasure for me to call this meeting to order of Huron County Council and to welcome all members of council that are joining us this morning, to all members of our staff, senior management team that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and all of our residents within. To all members of the public that are joining us this morning, welcome, and also to members of the media that will be joining us today. The first thing I would like to do is to comment on the tote bag that I believe all members of council were presented this morning in our seats, and that is a tote bag that contains examples of the various Be Part of the Solution campaign materials. All municipalities and all counties and all cities have challenges. The difference is how we address them, and Huron County addresses them with a solution. These materials provide information on the various resources and initiatives being delivered by the County of Huron and its many community partners to prevent and address homelessness in Huron County. All of these items are also available for download on the county's website. So please, everyone, avail yourselves to these and share them with other members of Huron County. Under my comments, the first I would like to comment is on the 22nd of February, past Warden Ginn, CAO Wark, and myself attended a nuclear reactor presentation at the Nuclear Innovation Institute in Port Elgin. It was very informative as to the impact that nuclear reactors will have in our area, in our region, in Ontario, and in Canada. And it was a very impactful presentation. Many of us attended the coldest night of the year walks in our various municipalities, and thank you very much for doing that. And it was a pleasure, along with Mayor Bazinet, to bring greetings to the coldest night of the year walk in Goderich. And along with others, past Warden Ginn was there, and in our respective communities, we do this to recognize the challenges that some have within our communities. And for everyone that was involved in all of the walks, the volunteers, the contributions, I sincerely thank everyone very, very much. Prior to that, an invitation was extended to CAO Wark and myself to attend the Canadian Nuclear Association Conference in Ottawa. And that happened last week. After careful consideration and the contemplation of the merit of it, CAO Wark and myself decided to attend this, and it would have absolutely been a monumental error in judgment on my part if we had not. It was very well received and tremendously informative. There was a great delegation there from Bruce County, understandably, and right across Canada. And to be part of that was certainly beneficial for Huron County. CAO Wark and myself attended various sessions, including an announcement from the federal finance minister of $50 million to Bruce Power to recognize the impact and importance of nuclear generation throughout Canada and within Ontario. We also attended various receptions, and at the Bruce Power reception, along with the representatives from Grey, Bruce, and Huron County, on behalf of Huron County Council, I was awarded the certificate that is in display in front. And it was presented to recognize community leadership, exemplifying the qualities of support, I emphasize that, and collaboration, and the communication of a clear vision for the future that will make a significant impact in our region. I was very, very honored to receive this, and it was on behalf of Huron County. We are very fortunate where we live in the proximity of Bruce Power, and it is absolutely beneficial, the collaboration that we have with Bruce Power. And so to Bruce Power, to Mike Renchek, the very, very capable CEO, James Skoniak, And John Peevers, thank you very much for this recognition. We do have the agenda. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. We do have the agenda that has been circulated in advance, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda as presented. Councillors Harding and Bazinet. All in favour of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of any agenda item that we have today? I see none, and I thank you. We have two sets of minutes. The first is for the Audit Committee, the second Council Day 2 meetings, both of the 21st of February. Would I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of these minutes as circulated? That is Van Stone and Noel. Are there any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favour of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under delegations, petitions, and presentations, today it is a privilege to welcome the Huron County Historical Society and Heritage Partners. And I would like to welcome David Armstrong to come forward along with Ralph Laviolette, the Secretary-Treasurer of the Horticultural Society, to present to Huron County Council today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I have to say I'm going to go through the day repeating synonym buns. I'll have to take that home to my grandchildren. Well, good morning, everyone. Warden McNeil, members of County Council. My name is David Armstrong, and together with my colleague, Ralph Laviolette, we are here this morning to share news about an important opportunity that we know will be of interest related to the capacity needs for our Huron County Museum and Archives. Slide 2, we see that as parents and concerned citizens, we share your interest in supporting the knowledge of Huron County history and our local heritage with generations to come. And pictures of snow like this are going to be rare, I think, in the future, so well worth preserving. As you can see in these slides, slide 3, our archival collection is critical to this task. Going on in the slides, as expressed in the Cultural Plan of 2008, one of our county's goals is, quote, the preservation and wise management of its cultural heritage. In slide 6, we see that from our studies over 12 years ago and beyond that, and from county reports, we know that valuable historical artifacts in local group collections and private hands are not being preserved correctly due to inadequate archival facilities in Huron County. And we are in serious risk of losing these valuable resources for future generations. And from our contact with the CAOs of the lower tier municipalities, we also know that this applies to any municipal collections and records that are kept in preservable conditions, that is, organized space, temperature, humidity, and so forth at the lower tier municipalities. Nor are they arranged and described, that is, cataloged according to national and international archival standards that would make them discoverable. Slide 7, it is important to note that while Ralph and I are from the, let's go on one more. There we are. Ralph and I are from the Huron County Historical Society. The concerns that we are sharing with you this morning are shared by the other historical and heritage groups within the county. Together, we make up a heritage community in Huron County. In slide 8, we can see that together with our heritage partners, it is our goal to ensure that valuable archival materials and artifacts from across the county are from various personal and group collections and attics as well across Huron County are kept and preserved properly and made accessible for the benefit of our children and future generations. Going on, in order to achieve this important goal and to align our heritage group efforts with those of the county, we see a significant opportunity to work together. We strongly feel that the time is right to create a public-private affiliation that brings community and municipal resources together into a hub and spoke configuration, a configuration not unlike the county library system, with a robust central archives with community-centered satellites, such as we see in Bayfield with the Bayfield Historical Society. This would be a made-in-Huron solution that is unique as far as we know in Ontario. Slide 10. At the heart of this proposal is a revamped central archives facility based on recommendations such as those found in the Lundholm Associates 2014 report that came forward to County Council. Of course, this plan would have to be revisited and brought up to 2024 standards and beyond as part of the business plan that Ralph will be addressing in just a moment. This Central Huron County Archives would receive, catalog, retain, preserve, and provide access to all suitable materials based on established acquisitions policy, and then digitize valuable collections for use by the satellite facilities and for online research and education. Slide 11. The professional staff at the Central Archives, and I have to pause for a moment and say how much we enjoy working with Beth Rumble and Elizabeth French Gibson at the museum and Michael and the whole staff at the museum. They are fantastic, first-class staff, very professional, always very, very pleasurable for us to work with. That staff provides the knowledge and expertise around the handling of archival materials and provides guidance, advice, support to the satellite facilities and local organizations. We know that this has occurred informally in the past. We see it happening on a more formal basis going forward. In slide 12, we can see that the satellite organizations, such as the Bayfield Historical Society or the North Huron Historical Society, would have the opportunity to manage community-based facilities. These would be locations in the communities. And we know that every small town and village in Huron County has vacant storefronts. There may be a vacant church, a vacant facility of some sort. Even library space, a table in a given library branch might be designated for such use. And these satellites would be staffed by volunteers or contract staff acquired by the satellites, not by the county, but the work done by the satellites. They would provide suitable storage for non-valuable artifacts. They would coordinate local displays with hub staff, and they would act as a heritage resource within the local area. Slide 13. For our part, the Huron County-wide organizations, like the Huron County Historical Society, of whom we have quite a representation here this morning. I'm glad they've joined us. We also have the Huron Arts and Heritage Network, the HON Group, and the Huron Heritage Roundtable. We would ensure good communication with all parties. We would help to organize fundraising efforts, short-term capital possibly, and certainly ongoing grant applications. And as county organizations, we would provide ongoing collaboration and training opportunities for the satellite facilities. Ralph's going to tell you more about our business plan proposal.
Slide. We present three issues about the need for a business plan. The first is, why a business plan? And we have two reasons. The first, our society was instrumental in a Ontario grant to create the archives now in the museum. We assisted in securing private funding, and we then contributed our society's records that had been previously kept in private homes. For some years, two of our society directors, Ted Turner and Isabel Bissonnette, volunteered to organize and manage the archives for the museum. The society currently has over 100 members and a long waiting list and many contributors. Apart from publishing monthly newsletters and an annual booklet on Huron historical notes, our mandated interest is primarily in archival records. When we are offered donations of records, documents, or photos, we direct those donors to the museum and archives for proper storage and display. We know that the existing facilities for archiving are insufficient for what our county should be providing now and for the future. Second reason is in 2012, we reported on a best practices visit to 14 archive facilities in the broader area, other counties and within the county, our local volunteer-driven archive locations, and to our municipalities. The results were highlighted in our 2012 report and the 2013 supplement, which dealt with municipalities, copies of which were widely circulated. In the visits, we learned that at Wellington County in particular, officials and volunteers created a business plan down to the details sufficient for an architect to be engaged and a fully equipped facility to be designed. The plan included commitments by all the stakeholders, interested groups, and municipal officers. When the plan was created, no funding was available to proceed. But when funds did become available through government programs and other government submissions, were made on the basis of the comprehensive plan completed so that business cases could be readily submitted. Our second issue is, where's the funding expected to come from for a business plan? Our best estimate of the cost for a business plan is $15,000 based on the report data and the current cost of scopes of similar business plans. A copy of our report is now with each of the municipalities and other groups. Apart from the Community Futures Community Futures Huron County is well aware of our report and has been and will be supportive for funding and creating the business plan. Apart from the Community Futures contribution, the Society plans to raise private donor funds, municipal contributions when available, and from County Council itself, whatever level you choose. Next slide, please. Who arranges to getting a business plan underway? Well, we figure it should be led by county museum staff and it should be based on the two 2012 reports and the one by Lundum Associates for the county and the one by the ad hoc committee. The Society is prepared to assist in preparing an RFP and to evaluate submissions to create the business plan. David?
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you for the time this morning. I know that you're keeping a close eye on the clock there, so I will be quick. In conclusion, Warden McNeil and councillors, we want to thank you for your attention to this really exciting opportunity. We want to work with you as a community group, and we think that funding is always a challenge, no question about it, but we think we could support on that side as well. When I talk about a public-private affiliation, I right away think of the Blythe Memorial Community Hall and the work that was done up there in North Huron. So that's the kind of thing we think we can achieve. I know that in just a few moments, the warden is going to ask you to vote on a motion to receive our report. I also know that last month you directed staff to explore the expansion possibilities for housing the museum and archives and to see what possibilities there might be. With deepest respect, I would urge you to add to the motion this morning so as to empower your staff to work closely with the Huron County heritage community to realize a facility of which we will all continue to be tremendously proud. We'd be happy to take questions. Warden McNeil.
Thank you very much, David and Ralph, for that very insightful presentation to Huron County Council this morning. And I will open it up to County Council. Do we have any questions of either David or Ralph on their presentation and their activities? Seeing none, thank you very much for this. We sincerely appreciate it and your entire group that are here today with you. Thank you very much to everyone for attending.
Thank you, Warden
and
McNeil.
presenting. And with that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder that we receive the presentation from David and Ralph as presented for information purposes. And that would be P. Heffer and Councillor Becker. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And thanks again. Number 7 is councillor comments. Does anyone have any comments that they would like to share at this time, please? And I'm going to go first to Councillor Noel and then Councillor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. At our last council meeting, I had the benefit that even though I was out of the country, I was able to prepare for and participate in our meeting via a teleconferencing link that our clerk had provided to me. So I was more than a little surprised to hear during councillors' remarks that remote participation could be interpreted as anything other than appropriate. I take my responsibility to this chamber very seriously. I was able to prepare for the meeting. I went to fairly significant effort to attend it. So I would like to thank the clerk and the warden for clearly stating that the benefit of the technology we're using is that councillors can participate in meetings, even if for whatever reason, we're not able to be physically present. I would also like to thank Councillor Klopp for clarifying the content of comments he made at a prior meeting that no action was ever taken to formalize a policy in any way limiting remote attendance. I see that in the minutes we've passed from our last meeting on this topic, that it says, and I quote, "The benefit of the technology allows for members to participate if they wish," end quote. And so I would therefore like to make the suggestion that on a go-forward basis, that information be included in councillors' orientation packages so that there's no confusion on the part of any member of this chamber that if a councillor chooses to prepare for and attend a meeting remotely, that participation is entirely appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Noel, and we certainly endorse virtual participation when it is deemed appropriate. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. I've been speaking with our staff at the County Roads Department and about improving the stop signs at our county intersections. You may recall that a year or two ago, or maybe more, we improved the signage at Mount Carmel and Babylon line due to a number of collisions. And from my understanding from our fire chief and the neighbors, there's been a noticeable improvement, which is a positive thing. I'd like a report to come back from staff about a policy to improve the signage to the 4-foot size signs with advanced warning signs ahead of that, plus any reflection that can be placed on the posts. I think we owe it to the public knowing that one collision is one too many and that we're doing everything we can to make our roads safer as our population continues to increase. And I just turned to our director if he could maybe comment.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Finch. Imran, any comments on this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, we can absolutely bring back a report with some recommendations for that. I guess the only comment I would have at this time is we currently have all county road to county road intersections. The stop signs are oversized, so maximum full size. That being said, the local roads to county roads may still be undersized as per the old standards. So we can certainly bring back a report with more details on that.
And would you need a motion for that?
I would welcome a motion. You would make that motion. It would be seconded by Councillor Becker. Is there further discussion on this for a staff report? On this, Councillor Becker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Councillor, for bringing this forward. I know this one corner Councillor Finch is talking about. We've had numerous accidents there, another serious one there the other night. And the lady said, I didn't see the stop sign. She stopped at her vehicle and she's standing on top of the stop sign on the other side of the road that she run over. So they're there, but they're not looking. And if these make improvements to save lives, that's what it's all about. Makes my job easier.
I hear you, well spoken. Councillor Finch, follow up, please.
Yeah, and just to clarify Councillor Becker's comment, the intersection that he's referring to was at Babylon and Crediton Road, I believe. Mount Carmel and Babylon has improved. So this was another accident recently, which has sparked this conversation. So if we can do a little bit, we can solve a lot.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? We have a Councillor Bazinet, please.
Not regarding this, sorry. I have a separate item I'd like to bring
Okay,
up.
I'll
Thank
get to you. So we have a motion moved and seconded for a staff report. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Bazinet now, please.
Thank you through you, Mr. Warden. I just want to make everyone aware and congratulate the Goderich Lions Club in partnership with Goderich Minor Hockey that on Friday, it'll be their 73rd Young Canada Week hockey tournament. And there's a lot going on all week. The games start Friday. Like I said, opening ceremonies at 7 p.m. Anyone that's willing to attend, please do. I think it's good for the Goderich Lions Club and Goderich Minor Hockey to see some local dignitaries there in attendance. You don't have to stay all night, but I will say this. There's 1993 Stanley Cup winner, Gilbert Dion will be there Friday night, former Montreal Canadian. For all those Montreal Canadian fans like myself, I'm pretty happy. And then Brandon Press will be there Saturday from 3 to 4 o'clock. But, you know, you don't hear of too many organizations being able to say 73rd in this time of era. So it is remarkable that they've been able to continue this, and it's a great partnership that they've formed with Goderich Minor Hockey. So I just want to congratulate them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And not surprising you would bring on an opportunity to comment about the Habs. And it is great, you know, for all the youth in 73 years that have had that experience, it's far reaching. Absolutely. And I will be there with you at opening ceremonies on behalf of Huron County. Further councillor comments at this time. Councillor Ginn, past warden Ginn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did attend the Kinsman auction, and I know many people do that. But when I was in the room in front of the cameras, we had a discussion with the kinsman that was in there. His name is Bill Pollock, and he told me with 33 straight years he's done that job in front of the camera, and I just want to tip my hat to him, but to all the other volunteers that do wonderful things in our community. There may be other kinsmen that have done it for 33 years too. I don't know, but I thought that was remarkable. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. He's from the Goderich Kinsman Club. Thanks.
Thank you for doing that, Past Warden. Again, I was going to include that in my comments, and I knew many other, and I didn't, because I knew many other people were also involved in that auction as I was. And interesting you bring that up, because when I was a part of that auction on the weekend, I shouted out Bill a belated happy birthday, because he'd had a birthday about 2 days in advance, and actually Bill and I started public school at the same time, so he's a similar age of about 59. So the kinsmen do great work, and all the money that is raised comes back into the community, as with all our service groups. When Councillor Bazinet talked about the Lions, in all of our areas, the volunteerism is what is so powerful. And when we all work together and don't care who gets the credit, and the money circulates in our respective communities, and all of our volunteers deserve credit, and the kinsmen do a great job of that. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and to everyone that is involved in the auction, thank you very much. I echo your comments, Past Warden again. Any further councillor comments of anyone? If not, I thank you very much for that. We do have a consent agenda that includes items 8.1 through 8.5. And I would ask, is there anything that anyone would like to pull from that? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive as approved with the actions as noted. And that is Councillors Heffer and Dietrich. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to welcome Sandra Weber under 9.1 on Planning and Development to address Huron County Council on development charges report, please. Director Weber.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, County Council had asked for staff to prepare and bring back a report on county-level development charges. And as part of that research, we were also asked to follow up with Bruce County to see how development charges are being implemented there. So I'm just going to go through and talk to a few of the highlights of the research, background research that we did. So just in Huron County, currently there are no county level development charges. There are development charges at the local level at 5 out of our 9 local municipalities. So those local municipalities that do currently have development charges are South Huron, Blue Water, the town of Goderich, Asheville, Colborne, Wawanosh, and North Huron. So the other municipalities, some of the other municipalities that don't have development charges are charging service and connection fees for water and sewer. So they are collecting some fees in that way. It's just through a different tool. So development charges are a tool that municipalities can use to assist in financing capital projects required to meet the increased need for services resulting from growth and new development. And so County Council just received the report last month on the updated population and housing projections, which showed that the population of Huron County is expected to grow over the next 30 years by approximately 26,000 people. And so, and with that comes demand for increased services. So without development charges, the cost for increasing and improving services is covered by property taxes. So in the report, there is sort of an extensive list of those types of services and capital projects that can be covered through development charges. But I think those of that list, those that are most relevant to the county would be roads, ambulance, library, long-term care, childcare, trails, and provincial offenses. So it can include covering new capital costs for such things as roads, bridges, culverts, facilities, and fleets. So there's a process that needs to be followed to implement a development charges bylaw and fee, and there is a need to do a development charges background study. So the background study would provide a detailed overview of the municipality's anticipated growth for both residential and non-residential, and the services needed to meet the demands of that growth, and then as well a detailed account of the capital costs for each type of infrastructure project to support that new growth. So development charges are payable at the time of a building permit, and in Huron County, building permits are issued by the local municipalities, not at the county level. So if there were county level development charges, there certainly would need to be coordination with the local municipalities to collect those fees on behalf of the county, and that's the way the system works in other counties where they have a two-tier system. So I did have a chance to follow up with Bruce County to see how things were being implemented there, and also to just to clarify one of the stats that Councillor McClellan had talked about from the Roma conference. So Bruce County has recently gone through the process of doing a background study and passing a development charges bylaw. And that took effect on January 1st, 2024. So that's very recent. And their charges are being phased in on a percentage basis over the next 10 years. So in discussions with Claire, I did have a chance to clarify the statistic from the Roma conference to 40% of the new housing being built in Bruce County as being affordable. So she had said that that was actually not in relation to development charges. So what she clarified is that of their final approved plans of subdivision, 40% of the lots and units are multiple attached housing that's being built. So assuming that multiple attached is more affordable than single detached. So that's actually where the 40% figure came. So Bruce County has included several exemptions in their development charges bylaw to encourage the type of housing needed in their community. So things like exempting rental housing. So from their background study information, the residential development charges, just to give you a bit of a range for single and semi-detached units in other counties, range from about $13,000 in Simcoe County to $3,200 in Dufferin County. So there is quite a range of charges at the county level. And then as well, this has been a bit of a topic of discussion amongst a county planning directors group, which is county planning directors from across the province. And so they did a little bit of a survey to see what counties were implementing or had development charges. And so in our surrounding area, Bruce County, Elgin, Grey, and Wellington counties have county level development charges. And Huron, Lambton, Middlesex, and Perth don't currently have county level development charges. So as far as financial impacts go, the cost of a development charges background study has not been included in the 2024 drafted budget. If it is the direction of council to want additional information on that, staff would be happy to bring back a terms of reference that could include information on the process, cost, as well as staff time. There's quite a bit of staff time that goes into helping with the background study and pulling together that information. So would be happy if council was interested to bring back a terms of reference on that. And that's my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Sandra. And for questions or comments of council, I'm first going to go to Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Sandra. Sandra, thank you very much for following up on that. I certainly agree with the fact that the 40%, they've certainly increased the densification, which is a good thing. There's no guarantee that even a duplex is going to be affordable housing, but I can understand why they wanted to make that statement. As far as the development charges go, I do struggle with this one a lot, because even when I look through the list there, yeah, the water and sewer certainly are controlled by the lower tiers, but a lot of the items on there paid through the county levy, which is just raised through our property taxes. But as the population grows, you're also collecting more, and you're also collecting it from the municipalities where the population is growing the most. So I'm having a hard time rationalizing why a development charge is better than what we're doing. So I will make a motion asking for a study or something going forward to bring more information. Here in East, we certainly do the water and sewer charge. We don't have a specific development charge. But when I look at things like, fire protection, of course, that's lower tier. Ambulance is county expense, but paid through the lower tier. And again, as the population grows, everybody's put a bigger portion in. So I really have a hard time finding another level of tax that we're going to add. We're kind of adding it already. But it gets paid on a proportional basis by everybody in the county. But I will put the motion out there that we ask for the study, because there may be some information come back that I just haven't considered at this point.
Okay, so we have a mover. Is that a seconder, Councillor Harding? I need a seconder. I need a seconder before I have discussion, okay? Seconded by Councillor Vanstone. Councillor Harding, please.
Since this agenda was published on Friday, I've spent numerous hours bringing myself up to speed on development charges because we have none in the municipality I'm representing. But on that list of soft services, we have a fire department, we have childcare. I could go through the list. We have numerous things there. Policing, we're paying our share. And it's, as a small municipality, and I don't imagine bigger ones are any different, it's been a bit of a struggle in the last year or two here. I just, a study is fine, but I'm not in favor of changing things very much from the way they are now. And we're able to stay on top, and I talked to our building inspector, and he has been involved in a municipality that had development charges, and he's not excited. A builder I talked to is not excited. It's just another charge, and we have to be careful that we don't disrupt the natural flow of the way things happen in our communities. And we have a couple developments that are just in the initial stages. And if I go to them and tell them, I'm sorry, we had promised you, but we had promised you we can't deliver anymore, why, doesn't do much for my credibility. I have all the respect of wearing my county hat, but I can't wear my county hat at the expense of my municipal hat. I have to represent them too. And I'm just, this is just, I don't think what we need at this time.
Perfect. Thank you very much for those comments. And I'm going to go to Councillor Klopp and then Vanstone and then past Warden Ginn, please.
Thank you. I think the mover and the seconder, I guess we're taught to try to be in the positive. So put a motion doesn't mean it carries. So in that vein, but I think Councillor McClellan basically answered the question, and hearing our other Councillor Harding, we don't need to have staff do a study. I think we came to a conclusion that it's good to talk about this. This came about maybe in two areas. One for me about our cost of planning department and how does that reflect, because the act says it's supposed to be self-financing and not subsidized. And so in one way, this confirms the planning department costs can't be put in for your development charges. So that's out. The issue of housing, as was brought out, development charges have nothing to do with if a lower tier wants to decide to tell people to do something with their housing, that is that issue. When you look at all these services, and we talk about the ones that we do have that may have roads, but I can assure you, as we have development charges, when it comes to roads, that development charge has specifically before that area. You can't use it to pave the 14th. If there's new division, if there's new housing on 21 in a certain area, it's a lot of rules. And when you look at ambulance, but I think we work the system with ambulance because it's 50-50 shared by the province. So right away, there's 50% off. And then I think even on the capital, we do some legal but creative financing that we somehow put rent back in to try to get that 50-50 deal. So again, a consultant you hire will say that's not part of you can't double dip. So you see where it's going here. So I think at the end of the day, to do a study, I know that also when you have development charges, every so often we have to hire a consultant to review that. And it isn't cheap. So $50,000 or $60,000 for us, when you start looking at the list, we're going to have a little bit of money. And it was pointed out by Bruce, they already started exemptions. So if the idea, getting back to what the original thought process was, I think was about housing, well, then I really come to the conclusion that we don't have to have our staff spending more time giving me a study to confirm what I think we all generally can figure out here, that it was good to get this on the table, but respectfully think we should vote no to the study for further study and drive on with what we have.
Thank you for that. I'm going to defer to our CAO and our Director of Planning, Sandra Weber, for some comments before I go to Councillor Vanstone, please. CAO?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden. First, just going to turn it over to Sandra for some clarification in terms of what can and cannot be included for cost recovery. And then I'll just answer about, or I'll just provide some points of clarification on process. So Sandra, if you want to respond, please.
Thank you. Sandra, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. So I think, the intention is for new growth to pay for the needs for new services that are needed as a result of that growth. And so the development charges are intended for to help to finance the cost for new capital projects. So things like I mentioned, like roads, bridges, culverts, facilities, and fleet. So cost of a new ambulance, for example. It is separate than planning application fees that are currently under review. Yeah, I think that's and the other thing that I wanted to mention was that, a full background study, there is a cost to that, generally hiring a consultant to do that. What was in the report would be for staff to do a little more research on, bring back a terms of reference to talk about what are the costs, what is the process, and what would be the staff time. So what we would propose to bring back would not be the full background study. It would be a terms of reference that would then allow council to make a decision whether they wanted to move to the next step of doing a full background study. So just wanted to clarify that for council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. CAO work, please.
There you go. Sandra took the words right out of my mouth, so I don't even need to say anything else.
Okay, thank you. So the discussion is regarding a terms of reference for this. Now, Councillor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And whether this goes through to look at the development charges or not, I just want to make sure that, because we are one of the constituents, or not, we're not a constituent, but one of the people who brought in the development charges just last year, and it's not a secret, it's $7,500. So, and I've had a lot of complaints about it, so I wouldn't want to see it go double. So if the county's going to bring it in, I think we should look at any of the ones that do have it already, so that we're not double hitting these people. So that's the only really thing I've got to look at, is the fact that, there are going to be municipalities without it and some with it. So we shouldn't be, as you say, double dipping. And we are a rural community, and it makes it tough for people to build a house. So we nail them with $7,500. Then they've got a septic system put in, which could have cost them as much as $20,000. And then they got to drill a well for another $20,000. So right off the bat, it's expensive to build in the country. So development charges, we brought them in because we do have roads and stuff we need to fix up. And so anyways, that was my only concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Past Warden Ginn, and then Past Warden McClellan, please.
Yeah, and I guess I'll join the chorus of people that aren't going to support this motion. Central Huron does not have development charges. We have always wanted to encourage development. And now that we're starting to see it happen, I don't want to throw up a roadblock to slow it down. I think we've worked hard to try and bring development into our areas. And, with that, I'll just say, I don't really want, frankly, the county to pile on extra costs for development in Central Huron. We want to keep our costs as low as possible, and I see this with being a negative approach. I think it was a good report, but I don't need any more information. I don't want to proceed with it.
Okay, thank you. If I could just bullfrog over you, Past Warden McClellan, I'd like to go to Councillor Bazinet. He has not had an opportunity to speak yet.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Town of Goderich does have development charges, and one thing that I've been noticing in the last couple of years is every developer comes and asks for an exemption as well, right? So that puts your council at a risk of setting up a precedent. If you waive exemptions for one, you might as well consider it for everyone. So I would hate to see that for county council to get involved in that as well, where we're being requested for exemptions. So if, let's say this does go forward, I would like to see something in the terms of reference that states a clear message regarding how exemptions would be handled. Thank you.
Great comment. Councillor Harding, did you choose to make another comment? And then I'll go to past Warden McClellan, please.
I simply just wanted to reiterate that I'm not against the municipalities that have development charges. I'm not trying to interfere with them. I'm just interested in, like Councillor Guinness stated, and we've got some development started in Howick. It's been a long time coming. And people know they have to drill a well and put a septic system in. And we just don't need to, that's enough charges piled on. We don't need to pile more onto those people when we're trying to encourage people to come to a community where there's some job opportunities, but there's some travel involved too to some of these good jobs. And I just want to, to be, that we're aware of that we're not adding more fees.
Thank you for that. Past Warden McClellan, then Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just to clarify, yes, I was only looking for more in-depth information from staff, not from a consultant overall. One other thing that I do want to comment on, Councillor Klopp had talked about the fact that they're giving exemptions. He's absolutely correct. I did talk to Claire about that and asked what the story was. And if I've heard it once, I've heard it 100 times here, is that how do we get developers to build the types of houses we want? And that's exactly what they're doing with their development costs, is there's giving the exemptions with an intent. So they're getting developers to build those starter homes or those less expensive homes to get them into affordable ranges where younger couples can buy them and move in. So they are using them as a tool to get what they want, which we don't actually have a tool like that right now. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of development charges. As I stated, I'm not sure that I can justify even the things that are on the list here, but that doesn't mean that there isn't more information out there that I hadn't thought of that staff might come back with. And that's the only reason I was asking for the report. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so for clarification, before I go to Councillor Klopp, the intent of your motion was to ask staff for a terms of reference.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all. No cost involved with that. Councillor Klopp, please. Would you turn your microphone on, please?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I thank you again for allowing me to speak. We have development charges and we talk about these ranges. In Blue Water, rural is, I'm going to say $3,000 for development charges, because again, development charges for everyone, it has to be specific for what is future in that area. You can't apply sewer and water because, to his point, you have to have your own. For a quick example, that's part of the 50, 60,000 we spent on consultants to remind us of that. In Bayfield, it's like $13,000. So even in Blue Water and on the lakefront, it's I'm going to say 6,500. So there's a range even within your municipality, and it also has to be specific. So that's where I said earlier, I don't think we need to have a further terms of reference. I think we've come to enough conclusion. We can have the staff move on and do their work. So just to point that out. And also there was, when we talk about the housing, it doesn't have anything to do with our development charge. We can just say, you know, we want you to have this many houses or you won't get your building permit. It's almost that simple. We can all do that now. Yes, you can use the carrot and the stick. Our colleague in Central, who's Huron, they're using their, they didn't first add $10,000 to the lakefront, if it would be the same process, and then say, we'll give 4,000 back. They've doing it another way. And in fact, with roads, what we do specifically in part of their getting their permit, which the county can do, is you pay for the actual extra road, which we do. And it doesn't need to go through this whole process, when at the end of the day, we'll get a very little slim of money, but it creates a whole lot of people feeling another tax on us. So I respectfully haven't changed my mind. Let's just move on and vote no on further study.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional comments of any members of council on this? And so for clarity, the motion is moved and seconded to ask for staff report in the terms of reference to investigate implementation of development charges. Terms of reference, that's the motion. All in favor of the motion? Those opposed? The motion fails. Thank you very much. Would I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report from Sandra Weber, presented for information purposes? Councillor Finch and Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much for a very thoughtful discussion. Under Cultural Services, 10.1, Huron Heritage Fund Committee. Beth Rumble is here to respond to any questions that any members of council may have on this. Do we have any questions or comments for Beth? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the report and that the Huron Heritage Fund Committee be dissolved. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Under Administration, Policies and Other Issues, our Treasurer and Director of Corporate Services, Michael Bloomhagen, under 11.1, the County of Huron Draft 2024 Budget. Mike is here to respond to any questions. We've had a thorough discussion on this budget and the process. Do we have any questions of Mike at this time? Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Mike. This is not about the budget itself. I'm fine with the decision County Council has made. Mike, every time we do budget and we talk about the increase, and it's always worded, and I understand this is worded properly, where it's year over year increase. Is there any system out there that kind of breaks out when you have specialty things that throw a burden on a particular year or a short term of council? Because, you know, this year we're talking about raising 5 point something. It's showing that the potential next year could be 12. But once you've raised, you know, that, and you're getting close to, 18 to 20% by the time you've done those 2 years in a row. Once you've raised that, it's just always there. And if you don't have those big projects anymore, well, technically you still have all that money being collected from the taxpayer. Is there any system out there that kind of excludes those increases just from a reporting standpoint to say, okay, well, we did raise a whole bunch extra in a year or a couple of year period, but that was for a special project, and now we're getting back to just doing the services that we're providing for the public.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Past Warden McClellan. Mike, please.
Thank you, Warden. Yeah, like in terms of that concept, it would really come down to the presentation in terms of how I would present the kind of the summaries and whatnot. And we can most certainly break it apart. Like if we have short-term programs and whatnot, we can highlight that in the budget and actually highlight an endpoint on that. And especially as we're moving towards multi-year budgeting and whatnot, then there would be better visibility on that. Right now, with respect to the operating budgets and whatnot, there really there's not that many programs that would end at this point unless we're actually making some decisions on service delivery. But where we get into the asset management planning and whatnot, that's really going to highlight that issue that you really just talked about in terms of, because we're going to have to get to that point where we're through that first refresh of a lot of our roads and bridges. But then at that point, you know, we're not going to see that level of expenditures moving forward. So that's where we can have some mitigation moving forward in terms of maybe leveraging debt or something to that effect, but not raise it through the levy, because we know those expenses are going to come off in the future. But we're not going to see that probably until the mid-2030s, where we're going to see that drop again in terms of our assets. But yes, I fully understand where you're coming from on that, and I feel that we can just show that through the presentation, and we'll see a little bit of that once we present the asset management plan as well, when we get into that 20-year forecasting and whatnot. So,
okay, you're good with that. Thank you very much for the question and response, Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. I think that ties in a little bit with my my discussion with the treasurer and with different counselors over this process of how we present, and I finally got it through my head. It's a process of presenting. But when we had surpluses every year, and we've had roughly $2 million that we've, as far as I'm concerned, we've taken out of the pockets of people in Huron County that theoretically could have stayed, not theoretically, and mathematically could have stayed there. This year, there's an estimated 3.9, let's call it 3.5 million. In theory, if we wouldn't have taken 3.5 million last year out of the pockets of the people of Huron County, we would have had almost a zero-sum cost, which the province mandates. We can't have a deficit. We're not supposed to have a surplus. Like there was that, the checks and balances. So, and yet when we say 5.4, but we take, as we all read it, we took 1 point some million and put it in general government for costs. And I said, okay, that was one of the meetings when we had previous meetings that brought it up. But as I understand it, if we wouldn't take that 1.5 and put it into general government for costs, then our budget wouldn't be 5.4. It would be that 2 point something was the real cost. If I look to the treasurer to confirm or not that I'm in the general ballpark. So it is this the way this council, previous councils have worded it. I bring up back at our lower tier, if there's a surplus, at some point when we find that out, we either go for the next year's budget or this, we literally put that, which means the taxes don't have to go up that much. And if we do need to spend more money, it's a little easier for as a councillor to understand it, because I look at 5.4, but really we've already spent 1.5. So I think going forward, I would like us as council to give I think a better direction. I think councillors would understand it better as they go through, because to your point, at the end of the day, the only way we're going to lower is if we start deciding that some things we're not going to do. That's how it's going to stop the inflation. So I throw that out to you. And again, this budget we voted up and down on things, and it is what it is. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Past Warden again, please.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Councillor Klopp presented, I think I believe we are going to have a discussion at some point at appropriate levels of reserves. And I think when those reports come forward, could we also, and going back, because we've had this discussion at Central Huron too, how do you handle a previous year's surplus? And what we do, we roll it over as well into the next year's budget. At the county level, we put it straight into reserves. So if we could have an explanation or a pros and cons of doing that, I think that would be appreciated and appropriate. Thank you.
Great comments for another day. Absolutely. Okay, so the topic at hand is the draft budget and the approval of it. And so I will read this and then ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the report from Michael Bloomhagen, our Treasurer and Director of Corporate Services, for information, and that we approve the draft budget as presented, and that we direct staff to prepare a bylaw for consideration on March 6th to establish the tax rates and general county levy for 2024 at $52,826,607. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Past Warden Ginn moves, and a seconder is P. Heifer. Any further discussion on this? All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. I thank you very much. 11.2 is Strategic Priorities Chart for February of 2024. Our CAO, Megan Wark, is here to respond to any questions that council may have on this. Do we have any questions for our CAO? And if not, I thank you very much for this CAO work, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report for information purposes. Councillors Anderson and Dietrich, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. We do have a number of issues of correspondence that have been circulated. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull on this? P. Heifer, I'm sorry, Jay Heffer, please.
Thank you, Warden McNeil. 12.9, I think it'd be good if we would support and endorse that on behalf of the CAs within our region.
And would you do that in the form of are you the mover of that?
I would do that.
And the seconded by Councillor Finch. Further discussion? Councillor Anderson, discussion? No, you're good. Okay, you're ahead of me. I'm there. Let's vote on it. All in favor of this? I love it. I get your signal. Now on to yourself, Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Warden. I would like to support 12.28 from St. Charles about the increased insurance costs.
And you do that in the form of a motion?
Yes, please.
Do we have a seconder for that? A seconder by Councillor Harding. Discussion? All in favor of the motion? And that is supported. Is there anything else that anyone would like to support? Councillor McClellan, and then I'll go back to Councillor Anderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to pull and support 12.2 and 12.10 speaks about the age of fire equipment. And as you all know, many of our rural municipalities and small municipalities have trouble keeping up with length of or life, even though they could be a good truck or good equipment. I think we should support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our clerk has just commented that we have already supported that previously. So are you okay with that? And thank you very much for raising that. Okay, Councillor Anderson, please. I'm going to go to you next.
Thank you, Warden. And I'm not sure if we've already supported this one or not, but 12.29, the potential for the municipal operators course.
Yes, clerk has confirmed that that was done at the previous meeting. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Bazinet, please.
Thank you through you, Mr. Warden. Just for clarification, if we've already supported a resolution from another municipality, can we not add it? Can we just say we've supported this already? I find some confusion here with us councillors wanting to support the same motion over and over again.
Perfect. Great question. I'll defer to our clerk, please.
Thanks for that, Councillor Bazinet. So at this moment, this is an item that I want to add to our procedural bylaw, which would basically state that if we've received a motion in an item that we've already supported, unless there's a change of information, we would not be including it. However, at this time, we don't have that in there. And I myself don't have the authority or gumption to actually not put something in that we receive. It also gives you an idea that it is an issue. So, but moving forward, procedure bylaw will be amended and we won't be adding it. Okay.
Great comment and question, and thank you very much for that, clerk. Is there anything further that anyone would like to support? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the correspondence not specifically dealt with. Councillor Bazinet and Klopp. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Klopp, please.
If this is okay with staff, we just supported the firefighters issue. Just on an update, we've been looking into it, and our CEO sent us a letter that came from the insurance underwriters are a lot that drive this, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. But actually on about the third or fourth paragraph in there, it does state we are recognizing the issue of financial constraints within the lower tiers. So I was very glad to read that. So I think there's some movement there. So just on the positive, I think some of the things are happening, and we have to be positive about it too. But also, I think we should keep pushing it and use the common sense of our trucks and vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Under number 13, new or unfinished business, if anyone has a topic that they would like to be placed in a future agenda, please contact our CAO in advance so that it can be published on a future agenda. Under 13.1, the compliance declaration, Connie Townsend is here to respond to any questions that council may have on this. And if there are no questions, this is standard moving forward. I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report and a bylaw be prepared and forwarded to Ontario West. P. Heifer and Councillor Finch, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried, and thank you very much, Connie. Does anyone have a notice of motion for a future meeting that they would like to bring up at this time? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to give the 6 presented bylaws first, second, final, and third reading and be passed. Councillor Klopp moves, seconded by Councillor Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. We do not have a close to the public session today. I would like to note our upcoming meetings. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is Economic Development at 57 Napier Street, and of course a hybrid meeting. The Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee is a virtual meeting on the 18th of March. Council Day 2 will be on the 20th, and it is again a hybrid meeting. The Library Board meets on the 21st of March, again a hybrid meeting. And Council Day 1 for April is on the 3rd day of April, 9 a.m., a hybrid meeting. Library Board on the 10th of April. And a special note that our Huron County bus tour for Council will be held on the Thursday, the 11th of April at 9 a.m. So please note that in our calendars. Okay. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to confirm the proceedings of this meeting as per the procedural bylaw. Councillor Finch and Noel. All in favor of the motion. That is carried. Thank you very much to everyone, Council and our staff for thoughtful comments today. And at this time, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn our meeting at 10:06 a.m. Surprisingly, Dietrich and P. Heifer. J. Heifer. All in favor of the motion. I thought that might get his attention. Thank you very much all.